Good day, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Nice to have you with us today for this webinar, 6 Key Tech Disruptions and Our Point of View. This webinar is brought to you by HP Enterprise in conjunction with Vivit, and we're delighted to have you here today. My name is Mark Herbert. I am the Vice President of Operations on the Vivit Board of Directors. I'm also the local user group leader in the state of Arizona. And I've been with Vivit since 2006 at least, and even before that, going back to the Mercury user group days. We're also delighted to have with us John Jeremiah, the Worldwide Communities Director for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. He will be facilitating this webinar also. But of course, our keynote speaker, Chris Hsu. Chris is the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Software and the Chief Executive Officer and soon to be the head of the combined Microfocus company following the completion of that transaction. I mean, this is a big, wonderful opportunity to hear from Chris. So we're delighted to have him here speaking to all of our Vivit members and those who could join us here today, and for those that may be listening after the fact through the recording. Just a couple of housekeeping items, folks, before we dive in. This is a live session being recorded. The recordings are available to all Vivit members. If you need to enlarge your presentation, there's a rectangle in the upper right-hand corner of the presentation pane that you can do that. And there's also questions and answers. We're going to try to field as many questions and answers at the end of this webinar as possible. And there is an opportunity for you to enter your questions into the Q&A pane in the control panel also. And if you happen to be joining us from a non-English speaking country, there is a little flag on the control panel that will allow you to ask the questions and type them in your native language, and it'll translate it for you. So feel free to take advantage of that functionality if you need to. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to John Jeremiah, and he will facilitate the conversation here with Chris. And thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us here today. We look forward to hearing from you both.
Thank you, Mark. You know, as a former customer and a Vivit member myself, I'm super excited to be part of this team and this pending change. You know, Chris, good morning. I'm so glad you could be with us and talk to us today. You know, in just a few weeks, we're going to be merging with Microfocus. And can you tell me how you feel about approaching the close, the spin-off and merger, and to be leading what will be one of the largest software companies in the world?
Thanks, John. I'm super excited to be here today, and I think we have over 600 people on this call. I would tell you, we're 2 weeks away from the completion of this spin merge, and I couldn't be more excited to lead this 7th largest pure play software company in the world. You know, we're going to sit amongst the strongest software players in the industry. You know, my teams on both sides of the Microfocus side and also the HP software side are working really hard to make this happen, and we can start to feel the excitement building as we're going to launch this combined new company right after September 1st.
You know, Chris, I completely agree. It's incredibly exciting from where I sit. And as you see us, going through this journey to plan to leave HPE and merge with Microfocus, you're soon going to be leading this pure play software company. Could you share with our audience and with the Vivit members, why is this good for customers? And, as you do that, have you talking with customers about what it means for them and how they can help shape the go-forward strategy?
Absolutely. So the key thing here is focus, and Meg has talked about this a lot. As a pure play software company, not a small software company inside of a large hardware company, we're going to be 100% focused on developing, selling, and supporting software. This is going to give us the ability to invest in the specific markets where we're focused, and we're going to be technology agnostic, and we're going to be able to support more platforms than we have in the past. I'm actually in New York this week. I'm here to meet with customers, and we meet with customers all the time. We conduct a deep market analysis in order to shape our perspective, in order to differentiate ourselves, and to develop a strong and focused point of view about the challenges and technology disruptors, facing our customers today.
Chris, speaking of the disruptors, what do you see as those key technology disruptors that we're facing and customers are facing in the market today?
Well, it's a good question, and there are a lot of them. And what I've tried to do is frame it up in the words of our customers. And, I put together a couple of slides that I've used with customers to see what their reactions are. And if I had to use one word to describe the challenge and opportunity that our customers are facing today, is hybrid. And, the key thing, though, is hybrid is not just a buzzword, and it's not just public cloud. And despite everything that, you're told or you hear in the press oftentimes, there's going to be a lot of mission-critical workloads that remain on mainframe, on traditional IT infrastructure, on various different private cloud environments, and there's a lot that are moving rapidly to the public cloud. And our customers are really faced with managing across that complexity. And that's really the challenge and the reality of today. It's not this sexy, everything is in the cloud and it's all clean and easy and you've essentially outsourced your whole IT. It's, man, you got really critical workloads that span that entire spectrum. And, I think this slide I put together based on customer feedback, and just walk through it. I mean, as I mentioned, we're now living in a world which we didn't have 4 or 5 years ago, where there's a plethora of new deployment models. And, not only are you choosing whether to put workloads in public cloud, but you're choosing Azure, AWS, Google, while you still have your workloads that are running in traditional and or on mainframe. And that just creates a lot more complexity. And then, oh, by the way, most of our customers are being faced with this middle icon here with lower IT run budgets and being challenged with the light bulb here to innovate. We want you to move to DevOps. We want you to develop cloud-native applications. We want it faster, and we want it cheaper, and we want it better. And, many of our IT organizations really have to rely even more heavily on finance because the multiple consumption models and financing options almost require that you need an MBA. And, to make all of that worse, IoT and the proliferation of devices everywhere is challenging the underlying infrastructure, network, and also the cost. And the reason why I go through this is just to frame up that, what I've heard from our customers is this is the challenge of the world that they live in, and they have to be able to address hybrid IT from mainframe to traditional to public cloud to mobile, and they've also got to bridge the applications they've already made investments in with the new ones and make those work seamlessly in the environment that they have. So, one of the things I'm excited about is when we put Microfocus together, we're going to be uniquely positioned to help our customers solve problems from mainframe to mobile to cloud across our hybrid IT environment. So maybe on to, that's more context of the environment that many of our customers face. And actually, before I move on to the technology disruptions, you can stay here. I just have to tell you, I was walking a customer through this last week. I didn't have the slides. I was just talking through kind of our point of view. And, this was a large Fortune 50 company. And the leader of that organization basically said, now somebody's speaking our language. We really do have our majority of our mission-critical workloads that are going to remain in the applications, languages, and infrastructure that they're currently deployed on. So maybe on to now kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace and our technology point of view. In this reality of hybrid IT, businesses got to deal with the constant pressure of moving faster, of reducing cost, and innovating at the same time. So in the digital age that we're living in, that pace has accelerated substantially, and it's driven by data. And that's creating a seismic shift in how software is being delivered, how it's being consumed, into every single through transformations, much of it driven by technology. And, when you're working with some of the largest, most complex enterprises and government institutions in the world like we are, you have to disrupt the disruptors. Now, let me share with you 6 key tech disruptors that we're seeing and our point of view on how we're addressing those and how they come to life. The first is Agile and DevOps transformation. And this is a direct reaction to the constant pressure for faster time to market, the rapidly evolving customer and consumer expectations that requires enterprises to innovate, develop, and deploy operations at scale faster. And, while not every company is moving to DevOps, many are still doing traditional waterfall. The certain elements of the concept of DevOps are pervading the entire industry and IT across the world because it's what's required to move faster. But it also requires huge organization, process transformation, and cultural shifts. And because of this, we at HPE Software and soon-to-be Microfocus embrace DevOps and chatbots as a new norm for delivering innovation and value. We're enabling multimodal delivery with a modern collaboration experience, ease of use, and powerful search capabilities. Let me talk next about the second big disruptor, the cloud. So, cloud, hyperscalers, and APIs, the proven cost savings and efficiency of these hybrid cloud delivery models are changing consumption patterns. The hyperscalers and the emergence of a new architecture and APIs have fundamentally transformed where and how software will be deployed and how it will be consumed in the future. We embrace containers and APIs as the new software delivery model. And what that enables is customer choice. Customer choice to be able to build, deploy, scale, and consume apps, whether it be in mainframe or cloud, or if it's in traditional and they want it to be cloud ready with the same data architecture and ability to deploy both on-prem and in the cloud. Then the next disruption I want to touch on is what we're calling open source at enterprise scale. Today's enterprises have seen escalating need for pervasive and responsive scale. Simple applications that were useful in the past have become disrupted by emerging demands of constantly increasing scale. And to address this, we hardened open source to accelerate our innovation within the products that we develop and launch and support, where the open source offerings are good enough, and where the open source offerings are accepted as a market standard, we're integrating those, and we're finding ways to add value over and above open source, designing open architectures to unleash additional value from all of the rich IP that we've built up and launched in many of our products. And just an example, in our application delivery management software, we're integrating closely with Selenium, Jenkins, Git, all in DevOps, in the spirit of DevOps and continuous testing. In security, it's Kafka for open integration and data ingestion. And in our IT operations management business, it's Kubernetes to support containerization of both deployment and monitoring. So we've embraced open source at enterprise scale, and it's not whether you choose open source or proprietary software, it's an and. All right, let me go on to the next tech disruptor. Once you acknowledge the need for enterprise scale, the next area to consider is just the sheer volume of data that we're all trying to manage and scale. We believe that every enterprise needs to evolve to a data-centric enterprise because the data is the most valuable asset that you have in the enterprise. But you also have to make sure that you use the data to protect the data, to use it to drive insights, to defragment the data and take it from silos into a holistic view that drives insight, to empower the organization to make decisions and to drive innovation and better customer experiences. We embrace data-centric security and risk management, and we've committed to breaking down silos, enabling access, protection, recovery, and management of data across its life cycle. Now, that's about data-centric enterprises. Next is analytics and machine learning. In order to take full advantage of the data, enterprises have to incorporate analytics and machine learning into their strategic vision and use it to make better, faster, and informed decisions. We embrace analytics across our portfolio. We have some of the best big data analytics assets in the industry, in Vertica and IDLE. And we're building this into our software as we hope that the entire software industry will do in order to help customers focus on monitoring, automating their environments and their applications, and using machine learning to solve specific use cases, which will help our customers reduce OpEx and improve total cost of ownership while driving innovation in the digital enterprise. And, last but not least, and this is what I would label the least sexy technology trend, but one that we fundamentally believe in and one that actually gets remarkable reaction from our customers, channel partners, and SIs, and that's preserving the ROI from existing investments. Guess what? Our customers have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on technologies, in some cases billions. And that is in some cases on an annual basis. Unfortunately, a lot of these investments don't cover the complexity of the transformation that organizations are required to undergo in order to adapt. And the question that we're asking is, how can we deliver the latest and greatest while getting the most out of the investments that we've already made? It's oftentimes easy for CTOs and innovation teams in large enterprises to look at the latest and greatest innovations coming out of Silicon Valley and say, oh, look at the feature and function and capability and UI of these various different assets. We should just move to that. But when you're talking about some of the largest, most complex institutions in the world that have mission-critical workloads that are running on the deployment models that we spoke of prior, the time, the cost, the energy, and the resources of ripping and replacing existing technology that have really powered the organization for a long period of time is far greater than if they rely on existing players like us who have a responsibility to identify all of that innovation and to build that into the core offerings that our customers have already invested in so that they can get longevity and a higher ROI in their assets and bridge the new technologies and the old technologies such that, as an example, COBOL transaction processing applications in banking now are mobile ready. And customers can use mobile applications that on the back end also are COBOL. So I hope that provides a good summary of some of the biggest technology disruptions that we see facing organizations today in our point of view.
Thanks, Chris. That's a great perspective on all of the disruptions that our customers are facing as they're going to market. But how do we address that? How are we going to help organizations overcome those challenges while also embracing the opportunities that they present?
Well, John, we talked about the tech disruptions, and, just to keep it, focused, what I'd love to do is maybe talk about 4 areas that, as the new Microfocus, we're focused on, and that will be the anchor points for building and evolving our portfolio, and that we're talking to our customers about today with great response. You can see it here on the presentation. DevOps, hybrid IT, security and risk management, and predictive analytics. So, as I mentioned before, DevOps is, to remain relevant, every business is being disrupted, and speed matters, innovation matters. Everyone is required to accelerate the pace of innovation without compromising quality. And, where business relevance used to be counted in months or years, I think you could argue that it's counted in minutes and hours. And many of our customers are embracing the concept of moving to DevOps, but as mentioned, it requires a fundamental transformation. It's not sequential, but it's continuous build, test, and deploy. And, our view is that security has got to be built into every step. We've heard things like, the term shift left. It's an integral part of every process. And if I look at, and one of the things I'm excited about, when we join forces with Microfocus, we're going to have one of the best-in-class toolkits to help drive adoption from DevOps to mainframe to mobile application. And in fact, there are few players in the industry that can say they have the best application delivery management tools, one of the largest in the industry at over $1 billion, coupled with the ability to match the application to the right underlying infrastructure with our IT operations management tools, and a best-in-class code scanning security application that will help ensure every line of code is secure. And then, with ALM Octane, which is an innovation that we've launched in the last year, we've got a key differentiator with the ability to manage and govern the engineering process from the very first line of code to production to deployment. And it gives you complete end-to-end visibility of the process and embeds open source, as I mentioned earlier, at the core. I think of this as a governance, visibility, and management dashboard with predictive analytics built in to really enable DevOps. So that's kind of the first theme at a high level that we think we uniquely are positioned against. Let me then hit the second topic or theme around hybrid IT. Hybrid IT requires agility because again, you've got lots of different types of applications and workloads being deployed on an increasingly complex underlying infrastructure, and public cloud is underlying infrastructure. As mentioned, it's all about applications at the speed of innovation that we talked about in DevOps. But once you deploy the apps, you've got to run them at scale in the context of the IT environment that you currently have and the one that you're evolving to. And we've got to get the IT operations function to move at the pace of the dev function. And that requires the IT to perform functions both in the old and new environment like deployment, backup, monitoring, and leveraging automation and orchestration to help do that faster, cheaper, and better. And with solutions like our OpsBridge and our monitoring and management tools, we can provide governance, visibility, and deep insight across the entire IT ops landscape, again, from mainframe to mobile. And what that does for our customers is it helps them manage this complexity in a simple way and bring innovation at a faster pace such that applications can be tested, deployed, and moved in a faster, more continuous basis. And one of the things that's enabling that is we've really adopted containers as our core delivery platform, and we've replatformed our entire IT operations management portfolio, and that's available today. Now, let me pause there for a second. All right, maybe transitioning now into a different part of our portfolio, but one that's of utmost importance to our enterprise customers is security and risk. As enterprises become more data-centric, the traditional approach to managing security and risk at the perimeter is not sufficient. And the pressures from regulatory changes like GDPR, like what we've seen in the U.S. in the banking industry and the healthcare industry, require more holistic views of security and risk and data management. And you really have to take a look at the data-centric lifecycle view of security. And, I led cybersecurity for HPE for a while, and I got to tell you, if there's any folks in the cyber profession here on the call, man, I had a lot of sleepless nights. It's not, what I learned there is it's not about when you're breached. The bad guys are already inside your environments. And it's really about securing the environments and the applications and the data from end to end so that if the bad guys get your data, it's encrypted and there's nothing you could do with it. And then monitoring behaviors that look abnormal and having systems that flag those abnormal behaviors so they can be investigated and protect your data, your people, your customers, your enterprise. It's got to start again at the beginning with securing the applications because, you know, the majority of security breaches are due to exploiting gaps in the code. And they're looking for your data. So you got to encrypt your data from end to end and reduce the number of gaps where you're encrypting, de-encrypting along the process. You know, data's got to be encrypted both at rest and in motion. And you got to control who has access to specific environments, applications, and data in a way that you can operate at speed and give the right people the right access while still protecting your environment. And that controlling access leads to the next focus area, which is, what do you do with the data? All right, predictive analytics. For the data-centric enterprise that we've talked about, predictive analytics allows you to translate that raw data into actionable insights. And you've heard me say that over and over again. There's too many businesses that have tons of siloed data, but don't know how to translate those into actionable insights. And actionable insights are things that help you run your business either more efficiently or to create new opportunities for innovation or to create better experiences for your customers. And in today's world, that data is siloed, it's distributed, and this fragmentation limits the value that you can get from it, and it creates lots of complexity. Duplication all over the environment causes inability to manage master data. It doubles or triples or quadruples your storage costs. And you know, when we separated HPI and HPE, and I led that effort, it was one of the biggest issues we had. You know, establishing what the single source of truth was for customer data, it was a big, big challenge. And so one of the things that we're doing and focusing on is the ability to go from reactive to proactive across all of our offerings. And we're applying Vertica to specific use cases across our portfolio, embedding it into our products to deliver on our promise of big data analytics built in. And what we're learning is we can help organizations reduce complexity and increase speed if we have an architecture built around a common ingestion layer. So we're building a single Kafka-based ingestion layer, and we're building an enterprise database for analytics across the various different parts of our software, IT operations management, security, and so on. And, you know, what's interesting is most enterprises that have embraced Open and Hadoop have multiple Hadoop databases, and it depends on whether you're taking a security and operations, a finance perspective as to what the requirements are. But what Vertica does and what our perspective around predictive is to unlock these actionable insights, you need to have a common structure and a powerful big data analytics engine across the enterprise. It's all about providing intelligent applications with predictive analytics built in.
Yeah, Chris, that's a great perspective on the four areas that you're focused on and addressing the technology disruptors that are, organizations and our customers are facing today. You know, but before we close, and this has been a great setup, I know you have to get back to preparing for the spin merge and the transformation we're going through. Is there any more that you can share with us and the audience about, you know, the new combined company that you'll soon be leading?
Yeah, John, I could share for a long, long time about my excitement about the new company. But let me maybe highlight a couple of things about, you know, our new company. And we call it Discover the New because a lot of folks don't really know this. But, you know, if you could go to the next slide, please. If you look at this slide, you can see Microfocus is a company that has been around for 40 years with its anchor heritage in COBOL. And COBOL is a software product that is as relevant today as it was 40 years ago. In fact, it's growing. And COBOL applications still power the world's reservation systems for travel and transaction systems for credit card processing. And innovation is still alive and well, making COBOL available in the cloud, making it available on mobile applications, et cetera. And Microfocus has grown through a series of acquisitions, many of which folks don't know, like SUSE, which is the only viable alternative to Red Hat and the fastest growing open Linux, open source distro player out there. And then from a Hewlett-Packard Enterprise side, you know, we started this business 30 years ago with really network management and data protector, you know, adaptive backup and recovery, and have also grown through a series of acquisitions. So as you put these two companies together, you know, you're building a company that has more than 70 years of heritage in the software industry and has acquired some of the best-in-class assets. And the key conclusion that you should take from that is we, both sides, have been around for a long time and have a long track record of consolidating the software industry, have a long track record of organic or innovation, and key point is we're going to be here for a long time, and we will continue to acquire companies and build out our portfolio. So maybe the next slide. So 3 things, again, that I'm excited about in this new company. Number 1, we are going from being an integrated software company and a large hardware company to being a pure play software company, 100% focused on building, selling, and supporting software with the global scale and the broad portfolio designed to extend the software investments you've already made while delivering innovation and addressing the core challenges that our customers face. Second thing is, if you look at the breadth and depth of the portfolio we have in every aspect that we play in, our customers that I share this with are surprised of the quality assets that we have across DevOps, hybrid IT, security and risk, predictive analytics, and so on and so forth. So, and then the last thing I'll talk about here is that by putting these two companies together and investing in building the best-in-class portfolio of software that's enterprise-grade and scalable with the ability to further acquire other companies, we build this on a very strong operational platform. Now, before I close, I want to hit on something that's very near and dear to me and our team, and it's our mission. And this is more than just words on a page. It drives our strategy, our focus, how we do our jobs. We provide our customers with the best-in-class portfolio of enterprise-grade, scalable software with analytics built in. And let me talk about a couple of these. The best-in-class portfolio means something. It's not about competing on every point product. It's about how we bring our competitive advantage to bear across our portfolio, like what I highlighted in DevOps, where we bring assets from application delivery management together with IT operations management together with security in order to help deliver a capability and a business outcome to our customers that very few, if any, of our competitors can deliver, and certainly not at the scale that we can. Enterprise-grade scalable is important. We are focused on the world's largest, most complex enterprises and government institutions in the world. our software has to be enterprise-grade, secure, scalable, that they can count on. And as I mentioned, our strategy around big data analytics built in is based on the core assets that we have in big data analytics and a demand for our customers to be able to monitor, manage, automate, and orchestrate workloads and entire in IT environments. And then the second half of this is fundamentally important to our mindset, our culture, and our strategy. We put customers at the center of our innovation, and we build high-quality products that our teams can be proud of. You know, if we have the largest portfolio in DevOps and application delivery management in the world that's all about delivering high-quality, reliable software at pace, then we have to live and eat our own cooking. We have to have high-quality products. And everything that we do, from where we invest our dollars in our operating model to our roadmaps, is centered around what our customers demand, putting our customers at the center of everything that we do. So maybe wrapping up before I turn it over to Q&A, I'd like to share a quote from Albert Einstein that I think summarizes our philosophy. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Thank you.
You know, Chris, thank you so much. It was great insight. We all appreciate you taking the time to share with us and to share with the community today. We've got a few questions that have come in, and if you have some time, a few more minutes, I'd like to pose a few questions.
Yeah, I think we've got about 15 minutes.
Yep. Okay, so let's dive in. One of the questions, I think it's a question a lot of people have had, is when will the spin merge officially close? And is there going to be a change to the company name or branding? How's that going to work?
Yeah, so the spin merge closes in 2 weeks. So officially, September 1st is the first day that we launch the new company. What you're going to see is we will ring the bell on the New York Stock Exchange on September 1st. So look out for that. For West Coast folks, it's early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. But you know, we're going to be a FTSE listed company, so a UK listed company, but we'll have a dual listing in the US, and so we're going to ring the New York Stock Exchange, which I'm excited about. We will continue to be called Microfocus, so there will not be a branding change, and we will continue with that name over time. And listen, branding is an interesting question because folks ask me, I spent a good portion of my career as a brand manager in the traditional consumer packaged goods industry. And, you know, brands are a living, breathing thing. It's a lot more than a name. And, you know, I think over the next couple of years, what you need to look to us to do is to really build that brand around this mission, around the mission that I outlined, to build a best-in-class portfolio of enterprise-grade, scalable software with big data analytics built in, putting customers at the center of our innovation and building high-quality products that we can be proud of. That's what I hope our brand stands for over the next several years.
That's awesome. Here's another question, Chris, that people are interested in is, you know, how do you describe the benefit for customers, you know, our current customers, that this transformation is going to deliver for them?
Sure. So first of all, before I answer that, I'm told by my lawyers, I just got a little message that my previous answer I needed to say subject to the close of the transaction. Is that right? Okay, I'm getting the nod. So I've got to make sure that I don't say anything that would get me legally in trouble here since being recorded. So listen, I think there are many benefits for our customers. Number one, we're a pure play software company. The number of customers who've told me, I am so glad that when I sit down with you guys, I can spend a full hour talking about the strategic nature of the software that I'm buying from you guys, really deeply understanding the roadmaps and having a dialogue about my needs. And, that happens at senior levels of our customer organizations now. Even since we announced the spin merge, we've been operating really as a pure play focused software company. Whereas before, and this is, when you're a $3 billion software company and a $100 billion hardware company, when you're talking to the CIO of the company, you're not leading with software. You're not spending the whole day talking about software. And so every conversation I have with senior executives and the folks that use and build our software is a two-way dialogue about what we're trying to do and what they're trying to do. And that's how we shape our strategy. And so being a pure play software company has real benefits in really creating that customer-centered point of view, because it gets us much closer to what the core needs are. Number two, listen, in the software industry, it's hugely fragmented. I mean, I ask customers, how many software vendors do you have in your environment? Most customers can't tell you, but they can tell you it's a number over 100 or over 200. And in fact, if you just go to the security part of the environment, it's 50 to 100 vendors, software vendors. And so the ability to be able to partner with fewer strategic partners who really have an insight, as I mentioned, around kind of the technology points of view across hybrid IT, and can bring together a solution that is commercially competitive and strategically critical is something that we'll be able to do as well. So, I just pause there. I just give two examples as to why I think this is beneficial to customers.
Awesome. I think that's really good to summarize. One of the questions that came in is a kind of a strategy question. When you were close to the decision, I'm sure, with Meg about the decision to go with Microfocus, and why did you choose Microfocus?
So Microfocus is interesting. We actually had never heard of Microfocus, and when we started at the outset of the process, but when we did the market scan for companies that had similar portfolios, that there was a synergy between those companies, and with partners that had a very strong track record of performance that we could put our shareholders in. Because remember, the way we structured this transaction with the Microfocus is that we're spinning all of our shareholders into Microfocus. So if a shareholder has one share of HPE today, the day after the transaction, they'll have one share of HPE and one share of Microfocus. So 100% of our shareholders are going to own Microfocus at the time of this transaction. And so we had to pick a partner who had a strong track record of delivering for their shareholders. And if you look at Microfocus over the last 6+ years that Kevin Loosemore and the management team have been running this business, they've generated a 700% increase in market cap of that company, which is better than Facebook, Microsoft, and other players in that industry, or in the tech industry. And so it was super important to us that we found a home for our software business where it would be in a stable business with a long reputation and a track record of performance for shareholders. Because the best thing, some of my customers say, well, why do I care about shareholder return? And I tell them, if you want a stable partner with the wherewithal to invest and access to capital to further consolidate and acquire and be able to live that vision that I outlined in this discussion, then you need somebody with a very strong track record. And so that was why we picked Microfocus.
Awesome. I think that helps people understand that. I've got a couple of questions that might be a little difficult, perhaps. Here's a question that I think I've heard people ask, I'm sure you've heard people ask, is that there's a perception that Microfocus isn't known for innovation. It's not that. How are you going to change that? How does the customer sentiment about Microfocus change as we go forward?
What's interesting to me is I don't think that's a difficult question because I get asked it all the time. And I just frankly don't think it's true. I think the issue is, number one, customers just don't, people just aren't aware of Microfocus, period. And they think of Microfocus as a 40-year-old COBOL company. And in fact, they even think of COBOL as a less relevant language, less relevant software. But the reality is that COBOL is 3 times the size that it was in 2001, post the Y2K transition. And lots of prognosticators were saying that COBOL was going to die thereafter. It's 3 times the size. It's available through Visual COBOL, allows you to deploy on distributed models. It's available to interact with via mobile, as I mentioned. And so it's just not, frankly, true. And secondly, if you look at the portfolio of assets that they've acquired, most people don't know that they own prized assets like NetIQ in the security space around identity and access management, or SUSE, which is one of the probably most valuable software assets out there, $300 million growing at over 20% a year and highly profitable and one of the only viable alternatives to Red Hat. And when they acquired Novell assets, SUSE was a part of that. SUSE was basically flat, and they increased substantially the investments in SUSE and is growing like crazy. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it's just frankly not true, and it's maybe old tapes playing in people's heads and really just not knowing even where the COBOL business, which is the one that they're thinking about, is going. In fact, I was in Newberry a couple of weeks ago, and I went up and met the COBOL team. And the thing that I loved about it was you had people that so deeply know their customers. You talk about customer-centered innovation. These guys have been working with directly, with no interference, their customers on an R&D and innovation for decades. And you had engineers that had been there for 35 years, and across the table from them, you had college hires that had been there for a year, 18 months. And they're all working on the next latest and greatest version of COBOL. So anyway, that's my perspective, and I think the question is, how do we, over time, build a brand that's consistent with the mission that I outlined?
Awesome. Spot on. I didn't think that was going to be a hard question, Chris, because I know you get that a lot. Here's the other question, and this is the question that I think half of the people, if I look at all the questions people have asked, I'm going to summarize this. It gets into what's going to happen to my product, whether it's ALM or UFT or PPM. People are observing that there's overlap between the two companies. People want to know what's going to happen to what should they expect is going to happen to their products. I know you can't work the whole portfolio, but what's your take and what's your answer to people when they ask the question about what's going to happen to our products?
We have a philosophy that if we have products that are overlapping, and we have customer bases that have invested time, effort, resources, knowledge over many, many years in those products, that if we go and sunset one in favor of the other, that we essentially create an event for our customers who've been long-standing loyal customers to look at competition, and in many cases, we're basically going to force them to leave. Because if they have to migrate and spend the cost of migration, as I mentioned before in the tech trends around ROI, they've got to spend the money to migrate, and then they're going to look at other things. Now, what does that mean? That means that for long-standing products, and I should say product lines, for long-standing product lines, we have no intent to shut those down or kill them. Now, there's a couple of howevers here. The however is, look, we do have products that are 30 and 40 years old. And at some point in time, we need to encourage customers to move to the newer versions. And one of the things we're very much working on and thinking through is how do we build software and migration paths to new versions of the software that are much less costly and painful for organizations so that we can incent them to move to the latest and greatest technology. And so there are times when, as every software company does, we may sunset support for very old versions of software. But every one of those things I review, and I review it from the perspective of how many customers do we have, how much are we spending on it, and where do we want to put those resources. What maybe the last point is what I would say is, in every industry, innovation is a very hard thing. And, let's just take the consumer goods industry that, I grew up in, that launches lots of new products and is, for decades and hundreds of years have actually been known for creating tons of value through innovation. 95% of every new product launched fails. Look at the venture capital world where hundreds of companies can get funded and one or two of them make it in the end. So listen, we do a lot of innovation in our portfolio, and some of it works remarkably well, and some of it doesn't work so well. And when it doesn't work so well, you have an obligation as a manager to ensure that we're investing money in areas where our customers really value and are willing to pay for. And so, there are times when we have to make tough decisions about innovations that just didn't work. Now, what I think you'll see in the go-forward Microfocus is, to use the word focus again, our innovation is going to be focused right at the bullseye of our core platforms, with a mindset of helping our customers get the benefit of innovation that is in the marketplace, in the core platforms, so that they can use those platforms to help drive faster speed, pace, lower cost innovation without ripping those out. So let me just pause there and see if there are any other questions.
Well, Chris, we could go on all day with lots of questions, and I know you have a hard stop, so I think that should be our last question, and we should wrap, because it's so good to hear you talk about this and to hear you share your insight as to what's happening with the company that you're leading, the future Microfocus. From my perspective, I'm incredibly excited about it, and I know our customers and the members on this call have been excited. So, Chris, I want to thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your schedule to share with us today.
John, thank you, and thanks to everybody who joined today. I'm ecstatic about what we're building here, and I hope that for those of you that are employees or partners, I hope you come with us and really help us make this vision a reality. And for those of you that are customers, I hope you continue to give us your confidence as we build what we think is a very special platform in enterprise-grade scalable software. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mark, the floor is yours to wrap up the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. I mean, this was awesome. I can't thank you both enough, Chris, for your time, and John for facilitating and your time. This is awesome. Thank you guys greatly. Before we go, folks, again, You can look for the recording of the webinar coming soon. And also, there's a couple of events coming up. Chris talked about Discover the New during his talks with us today, and there is a whole tour of events around the world coming soon. You can see referenced here in the slides. So consider joining Microfocus for one of the Discover the New World Tour events nearest you, and be among the first to engage with the new Microfocus team. As you can see, there's 14 events over a 4-week period, September 7th through October 5th around the world. So try to take advantage of that if you can near you. Also, there's still time to register for Protect in Washington, D.C., September 11th through 13th. So try to take advantage of that, especially those in the D.C. area. There's a number of folks from Vivit that'll be speaking at that event, so that'll be nice. And also the ADM Customer Forum events. There's one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. The West Coast one being in Las Vegas, September 11th and 12th. And also in New York City, September 13th and 14th. So those are good, especially for those of you like myself that work with several of the ADM products, to get to one of those and see what's new and coming up. And you can check those out as well. And if you wouldn't mind, for those of you that are still here, to take a survey at the end of the call, it would greatly help us moving forward. Real quick, just a few questions. If you could take that time to do that survey, that would be appreciated. It should pop up on your screen here. And that does it for us. Thank you, Chris and John, again. So on behalf of Chris and John and HPE, soon to be Microfocus, as well as myself and all of us from Vivit, thank you for your time today, folks, and we look forward to seeing you again and going into this new world together. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Bye-bye.